Officiant here today. I've known Jim since I met him in 1971, so that's for a few years. We're going to get started, but towards the end I'll be telling you some stories that maybe some of you have never heard before. Your presence here today is both a tribute to the departed and a ministry to the living, that these reverent services may enshrine in loving memory the character and the spirit of one whom we assemble here today to honor, is the primary purpose of this gathering and of this celebration. We come here today in unity honoring the life and memory of Jim Morrison, and in support of his family and friends. There is only one life, eternal, indestructible, a life that cannot die. Each one of us is a part of that life, an expression of the one eternal life. That is, this memory may one to be one of beauty, of inspiration and solace. We join in this tribute, not with a sense of loss, but with the thought that out of this experience there shall come something very precious, something that shall be to all who are here today a guiding star and an eternal promise. I'd like to read something. I know Jim would have enjoyed this, and, well, he's going to enjoy it right now. And this is by a gentleman called the Prophet, the Hildebrand. And he said, "You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of life. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depths of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond, and like the seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath this trembling, that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet is he not more mindful of his trembling. For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance." At this time, to pay tribute to Jim, I'd like to call upon his brother and sister, Maureen and Chuck.
Well, I just wrote down some notes about Jim over the years. James Norman Morrison was born to Dora and Ken Morrison, November 2nd, 1946. He was an identical twin to John David Morrison, who passed away in his early life, about 2.5 or so years of age. But Jim grew up on the family farm and graduated from the Flush Central High in 65. Actually, he graduated twice because he needed assistance of an English teacher we had back home, Mrs. Longworth, who needed grade 12 English. Now, Jim was an excellent writer, as you all know, and also an excellent artist. As you know, his writing from his recent years in his Facebook postings, but in the days of departmental exams, he did not, or perhaps would not, meet the standards required in 1965. I can remember Mom telling him to put his book down and come to supper, and he would probably be reading a book called Rise and Fall of the Third Reich as a 14-year-old. He just didn't want to comply with the rules and regulations of final departmental exams. Jim was an extremely intelligent person, and in the days of standardized testing, he actually tested with an IQ of over 160. To give you clarity on IQ testing, the average IQ of most people is 90 to 100. Mom hung around teaching, and I remember, this part is written by Green, but I remember,
I don't need to say it. Mom's good friend with Mrs. Davis. Mr. Davis taught physics and chemistry, biology, and Mrs. Davis taught all of those subjects. Anyway, Mom hung around them, they were her friends, and she called one day and she said, you know, we finished these tests, and the emergence scored so high that after 160, the tests are skewed, and so we think 160 plus. And we just not translating it onto the exams that we had to write. And because Jim loved to read and he could write any of those exams, but in the end, what would happen is he'd write it departmental, and he would think the question was stupid. So he would write an answer to a question that he decided would be a better question. And with translation, he would get 0. I mean, as a teacher, I would mark that differently now, but however, he read books, he read National Geographic, ferociously, he read physics books. Who reads physics books? Like, I don't even get past the editorial from that. And he wrote mechanics on, he read books on mechanics, particularly on cars and bikes and that kind of stuff. But his love of reading served him well in the law patch for sure. And the reports he wrote, for sure. I mean, he was brilliant. So that's the one story I remember.
so after he did graduate from school, high school, he entered College of Engineering in U of S, where he completed 2 years in the university, and then he decided to enter into the workforce, and he started in with Can West Industries, that happened to be doing seismic work around the Flush, so he got going with them in the spring of 1967. And first started on the line crew, but shifted over to the survey crew very quickly when they found out he had surveying experience that he had taken while in university. In the fall of '67, he bought this 1967 Cutlass Supreme Oldsmobile. And me, I'm a twin brother as well. My twin brother and me, Ken, thought this was the nicest car ever made. And at Christmas time...
Red.
Oh, beautiful. Christmas time in '69, Ken and I took the bus to Calgary to pick this car up, and Jim was going to be out for the whole winter, and here he was going to let us drive his car for the winter. We thought, you know, we only had our license for like 8, 9 months at that time. We thought, well, this is the real deal, eh? So anyway, we hop on the bus, come to Calgary. When we get there, turns out the car's in the body shop and wasn't repaired yet. And to this day, I still wonder if he knew it wasn't going to be repaired, or just was running. They're waiting on parts, and it was where he got. So disappointingly, he hopped back on the bus and headed back to the Flush, and we never did get to drive that car much anyway. In 1969, Jim began another passion in his life. He bought his first motorcycle in Saskatoon, a '69 Trident Triumph. In those days, all his friends rode Triumphs and Nortons. And I remember staying in his house, because I ended up in the seismic business too with him in '71. And I remember a drawing where they had a Harley Davidson holding a cultivator. These guys all liked Harleys or Nortons and Triumphs at the time, and they kind of belittled Harleys. Well, that changed shortly, because then after that it was all Harleys. But I do remember that drawing, and I'm sure drawn by Jim because of his artistic ability. So anyway, he spent, and then continued in the seismic industry through the '70s, spent 5 years over in Saudi Arabia, working 20 days on and 10 off. During his time off, he traveled throughout Africa, Europe, Asia. He had a place in London that he kind of called home, where he met some close friends of his at that time. I'm not sure what he did all over there by the time he was in London, all the time he spent in London, but I do remember when he came back, he was far and away the best dart player I ever met in my life. Obviously, he spent a lot of time in the English pubs. He had a place there. I remember him telling me a story about negotiating with a Bedouin tribe chief. I don't know if it was first. And he was a guest of honor. He used to have to go out to these chiefs and negotiate for the right to shoot seismic on their land. And I remember he was the guest of honor at this this one tribe, and all of a sudden this plate comes in front of him, and it's goat size. And these were the delicacy of the tribe, eh? And so, of course, Jim doesn't want to offend these people, so he did eat them, begrudgingly, because they didn't look all that appetizing.
And later we'll tell you about his incredible photography talent, but he took lots of pictures, and he sent them to me, actually. I think he actually developed them himself in Brooklyn.
If you'd like to come on up, and please feel free.
I spent quite a bit of time with Jim in the last 4 years now. Today we're here to celebrate his life. I'm very privileged and grateful to have met Jim 4 years ago. In that short 4 years, he gave me and showed me limitless friendship, opportunities, and memories. Jim and I met in Lethbridge. He was looking for a place to live, and I was too. He would have been 63 then. One of the first things I mentioned to Jim was that he was older than my parents and had to draw the line somewhere. I figured he would stay then and fall in love with me. And as he was much older, he told me as long as I was younger than Tanya, it was okay with her. He loved children. He so much adored Calvin and Tanya and the grandkids and just kids in general. And they doted on him too. And he was a really big piece of them. After all, he was the world's largest teenager himself. And he was always a gentleman with my son, and always showed genuine interest in him. Jim loved to think of himself as king of the bikers, king of consultants, and swore he should have been born into royalty. However, he was born into a Fort Saskatchewan farm family. But I have never met someone so proud of his heritage. He always talked of the Morrison clan. It was just over a week ago he told me he was going to get the Morrison clan emblem tattooed on his arm. He was always close with his family members and adored the children, and in return they adored him. It always put a smile on his face when he was around family. Whenever Jim wanted something, he would work hard for it, and very dedicated to helping others. He was very active in the rooms, always trying to help someone. Always positive and ambitious. Despite his procrastination problem, he never got past, but worked hard at it. He kept his mind very busy with science, sports, politics, music, and the news. He was proud of Canada. A person I could never really converse with because he educated himself so well. Some people just don't have the capacity for all that education, but he did. Jim was working up north a couple years ago and had some time on his hands. So he wrote this story to me, telling me one day that I would love him. How right he was. Oh, and this story is based on a true story. The Princess and Her King. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess named Selena. Princess Selena had a very sad upbringing and didn't even realize she was a princess until she met King Jim, a very wise king, who she would meet later in life. The princess life spiraled downhill and she didn't know what to do, so she moved to Lethbridge and joined Alcoholics Anonymous, where she found a new sense of purpose. It was about this time she met King Jimmy in the room. Now, she didn't know Jimmy was king, even though he acted very arrogant and pretended to be wise. See, King Jimmy was born in Saskatchewan to a poor dirt farming family. Even though this kindly family was giving him a good upbringing, Jimmy was stressed. You see, he knew he was a real prince at the time. I was supposed to be born into British royalty. He was supposed to be Princess Elizabeth's younger brother, which would have made him king of the British Empire today, because Elizabeth had never been queen if her dad, King George, had no heir. The two were mixed up at birth, and Jimmy ended up born in Saskatchewan to a poor-headed town. So you can understand Jimmy's dilemma and you see why he became an alcoholic at an early age. Now, Jimmy went on in life to become king of the bikers, then king of the consultants, and finally king of the underworld. He was a true legend, in his mind anyhow. But he never achieved the king status he desired. You see, Jimmy dreamed about becoming king of the whole world, then he would get even with everyone that screwed him around. With his life spiraling downhill, Jimmy knew he had to do something, so he too moved to Lethbridge and joined Alcoholics Anonymous. And it was then he met the princess. Now, Jimmy realized Selena was a real princess, but he had selfish motives. You see, he thought he should have all the beautiful women in the room because he was the king, you know, and it's fit my case. But Jimmy had a spiritual awakening as a result of practicing the 12 steps and began to practice these principles in all his affairs. And he learned to accept the fact that even though he was a true king, he would never achieve real kingship, his life was not always fair. And he learned to be a very wise man. But he remained very arrogant. That means he was very smart and had a very large private heart. This is what story that just So now you can imagine how happy Jim was when Selena and him became roommates. That's because Selena was the most beautiful of all the women in the world, and not to mention a true princess. And King Jimmy, being arrogant, didn't want to live with common people, only royals. And King Jimmy even convinced Selena that she was a real princess. And Princess Selena was very happy because she recognized King Jimmy was a great and wise king and probably had a very large private heart. And King Jimmy gave up his position as king of the underworld and went back to being the king of the consultant, king of Grandpa, a very important position. And he became very wealthy and very happy because he loved his grandpa position and the beautiful princess was such a great roommate. And because he learned acceptance, he had a great life. I would like to say they lived happily ever after, but sadly that is not the case. Although King Jimmy and Princess Selena were not invited to the royal wedding, or even got to do the wedding planning, and Jimmy did not get the job as Charlie Sheen was replacing on 2.5 Men, though practicing the 12 steps, they accepted their place in life. Princess Selena was afraid of commitment, thought King Jimmy was too old for her. Remember, she was a beautiful young princess, and King Jimmy, although kind and wise, was rather the elderly. In the princess' mind, King Jimmy himself assured you, the young said. But King Jimmy also accepted it, sort of accepted. Besides, Princess Selena was much more attractive to younger men. So the princess and the king lived together as companions for many years, and they became very wealthy, and they rode motorcycles together and traveled far away lands and appeared to live a happy life. But again, Princess Selena realized nothing was missing in her life. She realized she truly loved the king, and she had been selfish in not granting him sexual favors. She went to the king's bed and offered herself to him, but by this time the king's private part had fallen off and not the king. Selena was more cold-blooded and development, and her guilt caused her and Jimmy to split up. Princess Selena then married some young guy who was a commoner and was unable to work, so the princess had to support him and she had to give up her princess title. She knew she had made a terrible mistake, but it was too late, because King Jimmy had moved to a retirement home for unemployed kings. And through the miracles of modern medicine, King Jimmy got a private part transplant. A medium-sized one and a large private part are very expensive. And he got kicked out of the retirement home for sexually harassing his staff, the patients, and as well as all the visitors. This was from years of pent-up tension. In order to stay out of jail, King Jimmy was ordered to take counseling from Sarah's counseling services. And it was shortly after that the king's new body was found dead in Sarah's apartment. It was thought he may have been smothered to death in an unfortunate accident. And Sarah inherited the king's fortune and lived happily for it. And the moral of this story, well, what the hell is the moral of the story is you don't have sex, you'll die. And the real moral is that obviously results have far too much time on their hands. My friend Jim, I will miss you forever. I'm so honored and grateful that you chose me as a friend. I get to a dinner party like your dog, which you've never forgotten. Rest in peace.
For those of you who knew him, he was struggling with addictions and recovering from personal problems. And one thing for Jim, right away he took to us. We took to him. He was like after. And one of the last things I said to him a couple weeks ago was, keep coming back. And he was headed to the doctor on Tuesday to see what was wrong with his oxygen. And just let him know it was such an inspiration to everybody that his will and his determination to carry on. I've heard it here already. He always had a plan for the next job or what he was working at. And he was determined that he was going to keep moving forward. He always had the question, he was thinking, how are you going to do with absorbing and barely able to get out of bed and how he even made it to some of those meetings in which he was in. But he never got down on himself. push him forward. And we had a lot of respect for Jim. I think he had a lot of respect for us too. One of his favorite comments was something his daughter told him. My daughter tells me I'm not a social drinker. So, and he knew it. He knew what he had to do to stay where he was at and keep working towards getting better. And unfortunately, he ran out of time and we were really going to miss him. We tell newcomers coming in, well, he nominated himself as PSR as a group service. But he never went to any of the meetings. And then we tell all the newcomers, you know, have a chair, just remember, stay in line. Because I'm the sergeant of arms of this operation. He had a great sense of humor, and you know, I know he struggled to get by. I wish he had asked more people for more help, you know, just with his health problems and everything. So it's nice that he's huge turnout for him. I'm sure he would appreciate it. And obviously, he respected people enough, and he always said that to you. One thing about people is he'd be there for them if he could respect them. I think we'd like to understand people.